Welcome to the Start Something Show. Join world-renowned experts, change agents, and everyday folks who have done the amazing. All here to help you start something incredible. Now it's time to step out, live your perfect day, and create a legacy with your host, Tina Dietz.
Welcome, Superstarters. It's Tina Dietz, and this is another episode of the Start Something Show. The place, the show, the time, my podcast for people like you who are up to doing some pretty cool things in the world, even if you're not sure what you're doing yet. So today on the show, I'm going to be welcoming Pamela Thompson. She is a recent best-selling author. Her book kind of blew things up on Amazon for a while there. It's called Learning to Dance with Life, a guide for high-achieving women. But if you're a guy, don't turn off the show. This is for you too. You're going to learn a lot from her today. She's very passionate about supporting people to thrive in life and in business, including having more fun, working smart, and staying healthy. And she's a pretty humble person, so a lot of times what she doesn't tell people is she has worked with a number of governments around the world on some pretty major human rights and women's health issues to get policies into place that help thousands, if not millions of people. She's pretty kick-ass, I gotta say, pretty kick-ass. So it's a great interview. We're going to get to that in just a couple of minutes. But before we do, we have a Don't Be That Guy segment. Yes, Don't Be That Guy, and you can hashtag Not That Guy on Twitter if you have a Not That Guy or Don't Be That Guy that you'd like to share with us. Our Don't Be That Guy this week was brought to us and suggested to us by my podcasting colleague, Carly Nimmo at Carly with a K, Nimmo, NIMMO.com. She is a pretty amazing podcaster as well as a brilliant voice actor and agent. And her Not That Guy moment was, the excuse maker guy. Now remember, this is a guy or a girl. This is gender neutral. So the excuse maker, Carly's example was one of the voiceover talents that worked for her. Always have an excuse and never delivered on time. She constantly had to chase him. And it got to the point where he was flat out lying that he had done the work and making all kinds of dog ate my homework kind of excuses. Hey, listen, folks, we're all grown-ups now. We are all professionals. And sometimes stuff happens and we don't get stuff done. It's so much better to communicate to whoever you need to communicate to as soon as you know something's not going to get done on time, and let them know, hey, listen, I've run into a snafu and I, may need to move the date or the time back to this. Wanted to give you a heads up so it poses as little inconvenience as possible. Don't be that guy who just makes excuses and drives people nuts and makes them have to jump through hoops. None of us want it. None of us like it. None of us need it. And we've all been at the effect of somebody who didn't deliver on what they said they would or could when they said they would or could. So, hey, just because other people do it, nah, don't be a lemming. Don't be that guy. Do not be the excuse maker. And go ahead and thanks to Carly Nimmo for contributing our Don't Be That Guy for this episode of the Start Something Show. You can check out her work, her tribe of radcasters, and some beautiful rainbow things at carlynimmo.com. Thanks, Carly. And also just remember that if you haven't joined our community of superstarters, head on over to thestartsomethingshow.com and join on up. We've got some amazing tools and an incredible community of entrepreneurs who are in the service industries, who are solo entrepreneurs and trying to make it in this world just like you. So you don't need to be alone. We've got some fantastic things for you over there. Everything from tools on how to create your perfect day and bring it into reality, to fantastic articles from our guests and guest experts from all around the world who we're curating that content for you. And we've got some more features that will be rolling out here very, very soon, including a private Facebook community and a bunch more features that I'm excited to roll out to you over the next couple of weeks. In a sense, it's a very exciting time for us here at Start Something, and I look forward to having you be a part of it. Come on over, take the Superstarter Pledge, download the Super Spark Motivator cards, create your perfect day, and lots more with our free membership at thestartsomethingshow.com. All right, let's go and talk to Pamela because she's awesome. And I think I've said .com about enough for now, don't you? I think we should play a drinking game by the number of times I've said .com. I dare you to try it. Let me know if you do. Okay, let's go talk to Pam. Today I'm welcoming onto the Start Something show Pamela Thompson, who is an international consultant, business coach, and the author of the very recent #1 Amazon bestseller, Learning to Dance with Life, a guide for high-achieving women. And one of the things that made me want to bring Pamela onto the show was this focus on being high-achieving women. I was drawn to her work myself, and when I saw the title of her book, it's like, I don't know if that really is me. I don't know if I'm a high-achieving woman. And I thought, just by me saying that, I think I'd better read this book. And I was so impressed, and we've gotten to know each other a little bit, and I thought, oh my God, we have to have her story on the show. Pamela is passionate about supporting driven women to thrive in life and in business, including having more fun, working smart, and staying healthy. And Pam's website is creativelivingcommunity.com. We're going to talk today about her 7 keys for creative living, as well as her journey. Pamela, thank you so much for starting something with me today.
Thank you so much, Tina, for your warm words, and I'm excited to be here on your show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anyone who in our first conversation is, kind of pulling information out of me and seeing behind my eyeballs what makes me tick is someone that I want to get to know more because I really appreciate that kind of fast insight so much. So your story and your history, your background, is something that I think that people really need to know about you as a coach and as a facilitator, because, you and I had been talking before about, coaches are a bit of a dime a dozen, but it's what makes us unique is what we bring to the table from our history and our passions and our lives. So what made you want to change your life and start something?
Well, I guess we go back to when I started my first management consulting company in the early 90s. I had a really good government job, and I had the opportunity to be working with the World Health Organization, doing really cool work after the wall came down in Russia. And I had a boss who was head of policy for a World Health Organization program, and she enabled me to do so much really amazing stuff. And then I was at a workshop, and I've had an entrepreneurial streak in me. My dad's an entrepreneur from a young age. And I had the support of my husband then, too. He kept saying, Pam, why don't you just go out and consult? And then I was at a workshop. I believe that everything happens for a reason, Tina. I was at this workshop, and this fellow, it was on project management in a government environment. And this fellow, he who was leading the workshop was the R&D guy for a management consulting group. And we had a facilitated session, and I gave the feedback, and I voluntarily said I'd help facilitate the group. And afterwards he pulled me aside and he said, "Where did you learn your facilitation skills?" And I said, "Well, nobody really taught me. That said, I'm trained. In one of my previous lives, I did group and family therapy, so I'm trained in therapeutic groups, but I just do this." And he said, "We need to talk." So that led, Tina, to me on a handshake within 6 months later, joining this management consulting group and learning within a 6-month time frame a lot of processes to do multi-stakeholder consensus building, to do full-on town hall meetings, to do really, really cool stuff that built on my existing skill set. And then I ended up launching my own business because he ended up having a philosophical split with the other 2 owners, and I ended up just going out on my own because I didn't want to take sides. And that was in the fall of 1992. I left my really good government job with the benefits and struck out on my own.
Well, and since that time, you've worked quite a bit internationally, isn't that right?
That's right. That's right.
And tell us some more about those experiences, and you also lived internationally with your family as well, right?
Yes. In the late 80s, I had the opportunity. My ex-husband's an international consulting engineer. And when our kids were 3.5 and 5.5, up until this point, I would tend to stay home to have an anchor for us all. But this opportunity came for us to live in a little village in the mountains of northern Colombia, Tina. And so imagine taking
So
this
you
is
were
in the
in
late
Colombia in the 80s with your kids.
yeah, in the late 80s when
Wow.
Pablo Escobar was running around. We lived in this little village of 250 houses up in the mountains. And I made a decision that I wanted to learn Spanish. I gave myself 3 months to learn it, and I wanted to do some volunteer work. And so I worked with a peasant farmer NGO and campesinos, and I ended up working with kids who were 9 to 10 and their parents, and ran a really fun program that was very interactive on preventing accidents in the homeschooling community, and then subsequently trained the teachers to integrate those pieces into their curricula.
So your entire pathway, I'm just connecting all of the dots here, from working with organizations like the World Health Organization and health organizations from different places in the world that are in turmoil, raising your children partially in a very volatile political situation in Colombia, all the way now, fast forwarding to working with high achieving, driven women. Everything you've done, it seems like, has been around kind of going where it's hot and making a difference.
That's an interesting way to frame
it.
I guess when I do values clarification on myself, one of my top 5 core values is adventure. I have freedom and adventure. So certainly that adventurous streak has led me to some really interesting places. I've managed big projects in places like Pakistan and Nigeria. I've had the opportunity to work for the Ministry of Public Health in Afghanistan for 13 months, helping them develop their first strategic plan and building the capacity of internal teams to do strategic and operational planning. And yes, I love adventure, and I also love connecting. I'm a natural anthropologist, Tina, and I just love learning about people and different cultures and what makes them tick.
Like I said, we cannot step over your background and your history because it is just absolutely extraordinary. Now, you've brought all of that now to working with other women who honestly are a lot like you and a lot like me, in that, we've done a lot of stuff. And now at this point, it sounds as though you're looking to kind of pay it forward.
That's right. That's a nice way to frame it. I've always wanted to contribute and make a difference. That's also one of my values, contribution. And yeah, I do group and one-on-one coaching. And the 2 areas that I found that are really important for women, and I would say that the women I work with are anywhere from their late 20s into their 50s, and some of them even 60. Because I've been an entrepreneur since the early 90s, having 2 management consulting businesses and now a coaching business as well, I know what it's like to juggle balls. So what I find in my work is I really want to help women entrepreneurs become balanced, successful, and mindful. So I have coaching that I do in that regard. And I also have found that a lot of women, what I know to be true in my own life is that when we drive ourselves really hard, we lose our passion. And so the other coaching that I do is helping women rediscover or discover their passions and find the career or business of their dreams. And I find there's a great need for that because a lot of us in school never learned what our passions were. And we ended up, because we were good at math, becoming accountants or, whatever it was. And then we realize, we have kids, we get a mortgage, and we feel stuck. I believe we always have choice, but at times it feels like we don't. And so I'm here to help women know that they have choice, help them identify their passions and their values, what they're really good at, and help them then out of that create a business or find a career that's really will make their heart sing.
Yeah, making your heart sing. Now, with these women that you work with, and like I said, when I saw the title of your book, my immediate reaction was that I didn't necessarily consider myself a high achieving woman. And when I told my family that, they all started laughing. And they said, well, that's how you are, is when you've done all this stuff and you think that you're not. So So that's more of that driven, kind of competitive, high standard sense of, well, this is just the way it should be. This is who I am, and there's always more to achieve. If someone wanted to say, well, do I really qualify? You see my air quotes there, as a high achieving woman. What are some of the characteristics of a driven, high achieving woman?
That's a great question, Tina, and I totally get where you come from. In fact, I was back and forth in terms of whether or not I should put a guide to high achieving women in my title, because when I interviewed 20 women from North America, the UK, and Asia related to my book. And when I was interviewing them, some of them I knew, and that they right on felt they were high achieving, but a number of them that I selected said, well, I don't know why you chose me. And they'd be heads of government departments or CEOs of organizations.
Exactly.
And I'm like, whoa. And I really realized myself when people asked me to speak about leadership about a year ago, and they say, tell us about how you became a leader. And I'm like, oh, am I a leader? Right. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, leading town hall meetings with government officials in, Nigeria. Not a leader. Yeah.
Anyway, so I totally get it. So what I found is through my interviews and through my work with clients around the world and from my own personal journey, I've identified 19 attributes, and they're in my book, of a high-achieving woman. And you don't have to check off all 19 to be a high-achieving woman. But what I found is people tend to check 5 of them. But the ones that everybody checks across the board is giving more than receiving, and doing more than being. So I'll just pull what I mean by that. So when I say giving more than receiving, we're the kind of folks that are always giving to others and very rarely take time to nurture ourselves. And, sometimes old tapes come up about, well, we're selfish or whatever it is, and we feel guilty about taking time away from our families to go to the spa or whatever it is. But generally speaking, it's a lot of giving on community boards, giving to our clients, to our families, to everybody else, and putting ourselves on the bottom of the list. And the other part is doing more than being. So typically someone whose, agenda is full, not only working full time in the daytime, whether or not it's on your own business or for someone else, and then in the evening, doing things with your kids, whether or not it's running them to hockey practice or soccer practice or being on a community board. So always doing and taking very little time to be, to spend time in nature, to really do things that fill you up. So those are the 2 that come out. And the other thing is that I found is common across the board is that we tend to be women who find it challenging to reach out and ask for help or support from others. We tend to be the ones that everyone comes to for support. And so it's sometimes really challenging for us to ask stuff of others because we're not used to it. But also, like, what about that image? If we're the strong one, what about that? So anyway, those are a few of them. The other thing is, there are things like, really passionate about what they're doing, often want to make a difference in the world. Those are a few others. But I won't name the whole list here, Tina.
So there's 19 of them in the book. Those are the most common ones.
Those are the most common ones.
Yeah. I'm sitting there going, yep. Yep. Yeah. And I know a lot of our audience is probably doing the same thing right now. So that's really great. So then what's been a lesson that you have personally learned in this process of becoming, in this process of being a high achieving, smart as hell, really.
Oh, you're very kind.
Woman in the professional world that has been kind of a key for you in your own development.
Well, I've learned a lot of lessons, and I don't know about you, Tina, but I tend to learn mine the hard way.
Yeah, we can talk about that another time.
Anyway, a big one that I learned is that I'm not invincible. For many years, I'm from a family that set goals and, go after them, and achievement was really valued. And so I've always been a high achiever. People have commented on my energy level. I could always work round the clock, never had any, was always really healthy. I ate well, I worked out, yes, but I always had boundless energy. And then in late 2010, all that changed. I was in Afghanistan, and as I mentioned before, I was helping the Ministry of Public Health develop their first strategic plan, and we had extremely tight timelines. The minister, I met with her on the second day, and she wanted the draft done in 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And Tina, I do things in a very participatory way. I don't sit in a room with senior managers and write a plan with them. I actually involve the grassroots so the organization owns it. So anyway, I was working night and day, and I really passionate about what I was doing. And then I got pneumonia once. Then I got pneumonia twice.
Oh, wow.
Then I got bladder infections, recurrent bladder infections, and I kept pushing through the fatigue, thinking I will soldier on, I will get this done. And there's always more to do, as I'm sure many of your entrepreneurial colleagues and listeners and yourself can relate to, is that there's always more to do. So I kept pushing. So the big lesson out of that is I kept pushing, and I almost burn out. And I was ready to sign. I was actually a senior health advisor after that on 7 projects in Asia and Africa to reduce infant and maternal mortality with an NGO that promotes women's and children's rights around the world. And then after Afghanistan and after doing that for a year, I was asked to sign a contract to continue 2 days a week chairing this multi-stakeholder working group. And I slept on the decision, which I tend to do, big decisions. And I woke up in the morning and I felt, Tina, just like a lemon that had been squeezed dry.
Mm-hmm.
I felt so tired, you may relate. And I realized that 1, I really needed to take a break. And 2, there was no way I was going to be able to compartmentalize this work into 2 days a week. It was going to creep. And because of myself and the organization, I knew it would take over my life again. So I turned it down, and people were shocked. They basically said, "What? You know us. This 2 days a week is nothing." And they said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I want to create balance in my life in 2013. At that point, Tina, I had no idea what that meant or what that was going to look like. But for me, that was my mission, if you will. So I started 2013 back home, reconnecting with friends and family, listening to my body and sleeping. And I guess one of the big lessons is to listen to and trust in my body's wisdom. If I felt like sleeping, I would sleep. This is one of the keys in my book, listen to and trust in your body's wisdom. I knew connecting was so important for me, so connecting with family and friends that I hadn't spent time with for a while. Spending time in nature, because for me, nature is so grounding. I just love it. It makes me feel so present and aware. Reconnecting and doing yoga 4 to 5 times a week and starting to meditate daily, because for me, meditation helps me to be instead of being reactive in a situation, it helps me be responsive, which means when I interact with colleagues or family, instead of getting right into the situation and reacting, it's like I almost have a split brain, and part of me's engaged and part of me sitting on my shoulder saying, whoa, having empathy for the person. Wow. I wonder what's up for them today, and getting curious about that.
Allows you to bring that empathy back to yourself as well. Self-compassion.
Right. Totally.
I wanted to ask you, just because we have a few more minutes, I wanted to ask you, when you're working either individually or in one of your group programs with women, do you find that women who are highly driven, high achievers, have a more of a challenge just hanging out socially without an agenda?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. And I can't respond for all high achieving women. And I didn't ask people that question. So I guess that I would say when you're an entrepreneur, and particularly when you're a new entrepreneur and you're starting up a business, I think it is really hard for you to take the time to connect. I think there is a tendency, and certainly I've been at networking events where people just hand the card. Hi, I'm Pam, here's my card. Or hi, I'm Jill, here's my card. Blah, 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 blah. And taking all that time to perfect your elevator speech. And for me, what I've learned, and yes, I've been there, and I've done that.
We all have.
However, what I know to be true is the big, powerful thing is connecting, finding out about the person as a person, and understanding why they're doing what they're doing, And then, sharing and looking at, well, how can you support them? Always giving before you ask is so key. And you're great, Tina. You're so great at that. You're a great model for
Oh,
that.
thank you. I appreciate that. Now, looking back on all that you have accomplished and everything that you've done, and we're going to get into your some of your keys of the 7 keys of creative living on the Backstage Pass, and these 7 keys are all related to consciously cultivating improved health, happiness, fulfillment, and inner peace in our lives. I'm really looking forward to talking with you about that on our Backstage Pass segment. But before we, move over into that, I'm just thinking about, the women, all these women that are out there. And obviously this is a big topic of interest for me personally as well, for the clients that I serve as well, because I see this a lot as well. Where do you think there is room for femininity in achievement? I know this is a big philosophical question.
Yes. 2 seconds or less.
We have 3 minutes. Go. No. You're high achieving. Come on. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
No, femininity, and they're definitely, to me, and again, in my book, I talk about the world that we're in now and why this is so important, the changes. I believe that, that it's women's time. And, you read all around that that's the case. And it's time for women to, instead of taking on the masculine energy, which has got many of us to the top in organizations and has driven us to become leaders, to bring forth our nurturing sides, our caring sides, our collaborative sides. Because what I know to be true, Tina, and if you read the organizational development literature, you need to collaborate when issues like we have today, climate change, war, pollution, these are very complex issues. And what the data show is that in order to tackle these big issues, we need to collaborate. And women innately know how to do that. So connecting and reconnecting with our feminine sides enables us to do that. And that's why it's so important now for us in the world to, I'm not saying there is a place for that yang, if you will, masculine energy, because it enables us to move forward, to set goals. And I'm not saying forget all about that, because we need focus. We need to set goals. That's important. However, that feminine side, the nurturing, the caring, the collaborative side, the understanding what people are about, and looking at how we together can solve issues and problems rather than saying it's all about me. So I think the collaboration, that big C word, is huge now. And that's where the feminine side, I think, can make an amazing contribution.
Wow, that is incredibly well said. That was great.
Thank
I'm
you.
just kind of blown away by your answer there. That was beautiful. We need to get you a bigger stage. You need to fill a room with that message. Damn.
Well, I love speaking as well.
Oh, man. Now, and you also have coming out here too, I know you work with high-achieving women one-on-one and in groups, but you also help facilitators learn how to work with high-achieving women. Is that the case as well?
Yes. And you don't have to be a facilitator. Thanks for asking about that, Tina. I had this vision in a meditation in, I guess it was 2008. And my vision was I saw a globe with interconnected points of light. And what those points of light are for me is a metaphor for women around the world helping build peace in the world, one woman at a time. So women coming alive, like these lights turning on and supporting one another. So I've created this creative living facilitator program because I have 7 keys to what I call creative living in my book. And what I know to be true is when you integrate the 7 keys to creative living in my book, you cultivate improved health, happiness, fulfillment, and inner peace. And when a woman finds inner peace, she then builds it in her family, her community, her workplace, and it ripples out to the world. So my new program that I'm launching virtually October 14th is a two-phase program. The first part is 4 months taking a deep dive into the 7 keys in my book and really exploring how, with a buddy and with the group, how you can then teach others And then the second phase from January to June is supporting women to launch their own groups and also giving them skills that transfer to other areas of business. So skills in designing and facilitating groups, skills in really getting clarity around your target market for these groups, skills in visioning and project design and implementation. And at the end of the day, women will be certified as part of this program to then deliver this program around the world and basically create another revenue stream for themselves. So not only will they learn the skills and contribute to building the piece, so they'll make a conscious contribution, they'll also contribute to their own well-being, their family, their pocketbook, so to speak. And what the additional piece is, each group will identify a project locally in support of women that they want to support, however they choose, or they will design a project that will empower women in their community.
You know, I was just thinking about, as you're sharing this, the microloan programs that have happened in third world countries. And what they found is that when these microloans to start small businesses are given to women, that more than 98% of the loans get paid back, and not just the woman's family, but the entire community ends up benefiting as a ripple effect. And I can see that with this vision that this could very well have the same type of effect worldwide. These women individually creating peace for themselves, bringing it to the small groups, and then having these interconnected, as you said, points of light. I love the idea of even myself being able to travel anywhere in the world and find one of these groups and connect with these like-minded women who are all up to making themselves, their families, their communities, and their world a more peaceful, more creative, more abundant place to be in.
Thank you. And I just want to emphasize that I'm really starting this in North America because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs who want to make a difference and they'd love to create another revenue stream. So this is an opportunity to do that.
Beautiful.
And then be part of a social movement.
Well, great. Well, we'll put all that information on the show notes on the website then for sure. And of course, you can also find out information, listeners, at creativelivingcommunity.com, along with Pamela's book, Learning to Dance with Life, a guide for high achieving women. So check all that out at thestartsomethingshow.com as well. And Pamela, I'm looking forward to having you on the Backstage Pass with me, where we're going to dive into some of your 7 keys for creative living.
Thank you so much, Tina.
Oh, thank you, my dear. It's been great having you on the show. Well, Superstarters, we are going to head on over to the Backstage Pass and talk with Pam some more. In the meantime, go to creativelivingcommunity.com and, of course, find all the show notes with the links to what we've talked about today, more about Pam and all the points at thestartsomethingshow.com. And remember, you can also become a Superstarter. Join our community there, along with all the resources that we have for you. Everything from creating your perfect day to building your vision plan, and all tons and tons of articles from our guest experts. That's what we give you. We give it all for free at thestartsomethingshow.com. We will see you next week. Come back and join us on the Backstage Pass.
Start something with purpose. Start something with freedom. Start something now. Go to thestartsomethingshow.com, join our community of Superstarters, and get your perfect day planner pack, a free resource to help you create the life you've dreamed of living. Take action now, and we'll see you for our next exciting episode.